In a recording made in 1992 with Brendan Dunne, he related his experiences as a stonemason on Lambay Island. Brendan lives in Rogerstown and he's lived by the sea all his life, and I wondered, had the sea ever come a bit too close at any time?
I was fishing. I went on this boat during the war, the Guiding Light. She was a small fishing boat decked with 4 of a crew, and they were doing so well, this fishing company, or this fishing family. Georgie Coe was the skipper. Lord of Mercy and George is dead. They're all dead. They were in a bar me. I don't know why I'm kept alive at all. But anyway, we used to have to go down maybe when the oil all go once, or maybe once at least a month for the get. We had no rations for her because they bought her in Northern Ireland during the war, and we had to have rations for fuel, and we'd no rations, and we used to go down there for diet. And this particular time we were down, we left about 12 o'clock at night, and we were tied up alongside a coal boat, and that hatch us off, and we were level with it, it was a grand night. And God, we nearly took a ton of coal off it. We threw it in the hole, bring home. You couldn't get coal or anything. So we damn it, we were motoring away. George, he'd say, "Oh, follow that light." He says, "There's one of the Kilkeel boats going up to Dublin, up to fish." And we're following this fucking light. The compass was out of order. I think when we thought we were going south, we were going north. At Georgie, that was going for about 12. It must have been about 4 o'clock in the morning. So we should see the lights of the Rocket Bill by now. There was no sign of any lights, so we started to sound the water, see what depth there was under us. We couldn't get the bottom. So we steamed in for it was about 4 in the morning. But then anyway, we steamed in, and we got for a couple of hours, and then we went off again. And the next thing we saw land. I don't know what time it was, and the next day, and we went into. We saw a little bit of a cove or some kind of a harbour way in, and we went into it, and nice and easy because we didn't know where we were. And a couple of fellas come down. It was an island of some description, and I was in the bow with Wirely Harford, and the crew was all dead. He said to him, we were blowing off course. We don't know where we are. And he says, Georgie said to me, he says, what did he say? He said, me don't speak the English. Oh, Christ, says George. I was only just a condom, But we were up in the Outer Hebrides just sometime the next evening. So don't be talking. Every time we went out, we'd have to be towed in, or the Air Force would be after us in the cliff. The boat was rotten, and the gear was rotten. And I was in her 7 months, and I only earned 23 shillings for 7 months. We only shared one week. It was a real bad week, and that particular day we were out. We went out for a couple of weeks after because she nearly sunk. We went out with the chops. It was a bad day, and we didn't go out deep. We went away down under the islands at Skerries, and we made a ring. It was ringing we were doing, and we were lucky we weren't out deep. But Wirely said to me when we were out and throwing out the nets, and we were just hauling them in the ring, and they went down to see it's the kettle boiling. So I went down, the fetching everything was the water was slashing up and down, the fish boxes rooting around. So I got to come back. She says, it's just full of water. So I said, all the way down the head. Jesus. We got her into Skerries. And we said, into Skerries, she sunk. in the harbour. So we were fortunate there, cogging her up there to get her out again. So we never, when we'd have the fish nearly in the ring, just maybe be lifting it up, surely to God, the old engine would stop. Fish would all swim out and that was the end of it. And
What was ringing? How did you tell us about that?
you put down a mark, or there was a big net, you see, and there was ropes each side of it, and you went around the big ring with this net. You know, there were sinkers on it to go down to the bottom, and they went around the big ring like that, and away back into the marker again. They had a flag on it, and then they winched the whole thing. There was a big bag on it for to catch the fish. Anything within that big ring, you'd catch it.
Lovely.
That's the way the fish. Oh, that was after. Used to be hooking before that. Used to hook the fish, long lines.
Just long line.
Yeah. Then they come into this with a better way. The ringing, the smaller boats then, and the bigger steamboats used to do the trawling. But that's what they call the ringing.
Even though you're only about 30 odd years here in Rogerstown, you lived in Rush at the harbour.
But
it's only about a couple of miles or so away from
here.
That's
all.
Well, even as a child, what were your early memories of Rogerstown here itself? I mean, what was in Rogerstown?
Well, Rogerstown here was the soldiers used to be down there in the Mash, just down there, the other side of the harbour. There's a low line. There's cattle on it now, very low line, and rushes on it. Call that the Marsh. And the soldiers had their camps there. The British Army, and they used to swim the horses across there, training to be on the horses, some of them holding on to their tails and all, back and forth across the river, you know. And this was, at that time or before this was a real smugglers. Then all the way up the estuary up there, there's crosses built in the wall. There's a big cross built in the wall up there at the Mash, the other side of them. That was what do you call him? A custom man that the smuggler shot. You see that? They used to go way up to Broad River, but the Broad Meadow, way up Rogerstown, but it's all filled in now with the dump, you know. And
but the British Army that was only a temporary camp. There were tents.
Ah, yeah.
On the little pier itself, there is a building. It's like a big store. What was that? Is that just a storehouse?
In my time, it was a coal Carey. He was a big landowner, and he had a shop up in the town. Robert Carey, he owned that pier. Revelstoke owns it now, and he brought in the coal boats from England. Lonsdale and them. Boats only about 200 tons, you know, coal, for the coal. And he had tracks and trolleys and all up on big steel. They were only taken down a year or two ago, and they filled they'd put they'd run the trolley loads of coal into the coal yard. The coal yard was 2 stories. They had a doorway and that, and they'd just dump it into the coal. That was coal store. But before his time, I think it was something else. The historians would tell you it was built for some kind of a...
You remember those coal ships yourself?
Oh, yes.
It's only 200 ton. What kind of length would they be? It seems such a very small estuary here for ships to be going up and down.
Oh, well, it was fairly... Those ships used to keep it open then, with coming up and down with their propellers and all. It's all silted in now. And, they were big ships, but they always had to have a pilot out here to take them in, you know, because the bar used to shift, or shifting sand here, you know.
Oh, yes.
And they'd have to put markers down then the day before the pilot. The pilot would have to do that, you know. And I don't know, it's always I remember them well. And before that, there used to be huge schooners used to come in. But because I remember my father talking about a big schooner that was in, and this sailor was wrapping up, but I can't remember the term he made, wrapping up the it was away out in the bowsprit, wrapping up the sails and all. And there was an old farmer here, but you think when he was fond of the soap, Pat Jones was his name, father of all the Joneses, Kit Jones and all them, and he knew more about the sea and about the ports in the world than any sailor. And he was never, his father used to laugh, he says he was never as far as land bait, never mind anything else. And this sailor was tying up the sails way out in the jib and all. And he asked him, "Did you ever see a ship like this before?" You know. He says, "I did." He says, "But I never saw a man," and I can't remember the term he made. Wrapping up what you call it, where something else should have been anyway, the jib where some other sail should be. And he got a right level. Your man knew more about the sailing ships than the sailors themselves. And he was a landlubber. He was a farmer. But he had a great joke about him. Pat Jones, his name. He was a hard case.
Do you remember the Palmers in Kinua now?
Oh, I worked over there. I slated the roof for Colonel Palmer, and was the wash house. It wasn't the main. It was house. Oh, it's a good few years ago. Worked over there, and he was telling me, he told me about his estate in Oswestry in North Wales. He had another estate there. Of course, he was Colonel Palmer in England. He was in the English Army. He was a colonel. Lady Palmer was his antecedents before him, you know, Rogers. But he was telling me, I was telling him I worked over in England. The last place I was in, so it was Oswestry. So I was a militia camp. And he said to me, "So I had an estate there, and it was the military was using it." I said, "God," says, I said, "that's where the militia camp for the soldiers, or where they were calling them up and training them in the tarmac." Says, "I was working on that." And says, I didn't know you owned the estate. And I was lodging alongside it. And you see, there was a couple of houses. There was another town, like from here to Skerries, the other side of it. And I was out at the dance one night, come about 1 o'clock in the morning, and says, I come through the estate, you know, and I think for a short cut, I was going to cut 2 or 3 miles off, you know, and pitch dark at night, 1 o'clock in the morning or sometime, and of course I was walking in it, and the next thing, this voice comes and says, "Who goes there?" It was the sentry. God, I can know, right? And I told him, "Our friend," says I. So he told me, "Frank's friend, if you recognise." And he clicked the theory to go and click, and he marched me up. He didn't ask me any question. Marched me up to the officers' mess. It was only 50 yards or so away, and they brought me in before it. And of course I was an Irishman in the middle of the war, in the middle of the night, going through a fucking camp in the estate. I was lucky man when I think of it after, you know, because they questioned me up and down and down and up. And I told them I was lodging here, lounging in the house, told them. And so I'm working on the estate here in the camp here, in the militia camp. And they asked me then, "What's your number?" See, we had a number, you know. So, and I was able to give them a number, and that was all right. They explained everything. So let me go. I got to.
Ending another programme there for us was Brendan Dunne, in a recording made in 1992 in April. My thanks this week goes to David Parks, Francie Rogan, Michael Hall for his poetry, and of course Brendan Dunne. This is Jim Hawkins saying goodbye till next week.